Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name's Brianna. I'm co-captain of 2019's gold medal winning Team USA, and today I have 8 tips for you for when you're last in on the court. These are going to be general tips no matter how many people you're versing or the game situation, so let's jump right into it. Tip number 1 is to know the game situation. If you're playing a best of scenario, so best of 3, best of 7, you don't have to worry about this too much. You can play whatever game you want to play because you don't have a clock to worry about. But if you're playing with a timed game, then you really need to know the game situation. So whether it's 5 minutes left in the game and you're up 3 points, or 5 minutes left in the game and you're down 3 points, or maybe it's the first game of the match, depending on what that situation is how you're going to play. So if it's one of the first matches, you can kind of play how you're comfortable playing. But if you're down to like the last 5 minutes and you're down 3 points, well then you need to probably play pretty fast because you want to try and get that point as quickly as possible to give your team a shot. And the opposite would be is if you're up 3 points with 5 minutes left, then you're going to want to be playing slow and burning the clock because you don't want the other team to get a chance to catch up to you. But tip number 2 is to be patient and use that throw clock to your advantage. Even when your team is down, you don't want to rush, because if you rush, you're going to gash yourself and you're going to be that much easier to get out. So you still want to use the clock to your advantage. So take a couple extra breaths before you throw to make sure you get your full power into the throw. Make sure on defense, you don't run to the line right after the other team throws. Like, take a second to take a breath, because if you're gassed, you're going to be so easy to get out. So even when your team is down, make sure you're being patient and strategic. That way you don't get out because you were too tired to make the proper move. Tip number 3 is to always have a ball in your hand to protect yourself. Even if you're the worst blocker, by having that ball in your hand, you're giving yourself a chance to make a defensive play. So you can pump fake against your opponent, or you can go for that block if you want to. As soon as you don't have a ball in your hand, the other team can put as much of a wind up and take their time into their throw, and it's going to be that much harder to catch and that much harder to make a defensive play on it. By having a ball, you open up the opportunity to make a defensive play. And now, the only 2 times I ever break this rule are 1, if it's no blocking or sudden death. I personally don't like having a ball in my hand because I instinctually like to block, so I won't have a ball in my hand, or I'll drop it right away, and so it's really easy for the other team to see that I'm gonna drop it. Or if the other team has 0 balls in their hand and you have all 6 balls on your side, well then I'm gonna throw both the balls in my hand really quick, because I know my shaggers are gonna get me another ball before the other team gets any of the balls that I just threw. Or likewise, if I just threw a ball and it like hit the net behind them and the shaggers are struggling to get it, I might quickly get 2 more throws in because I know my shaggers are gonna pass me another ball before the other team gets a ball to protect themselves with. Tip number 4 is to use your best, most accurate throw more often than not. It's okay to switch it up and maybe do a cross court every now and then, but your most accurate throw is probably going to be a fastball. It's probably going to be a straight throw, because when you're in, especially when you're in against multiple people, you want to get at least a couple of those people out as quickly as possible. Even if you're trying to burn time, it's going to be a lot easier to dodge 1 ball than it is going to be to dodge 3. So the sooner you start picking people off, the better chance you have of winning that game. And so by using your most accurate throw, you're setting yourself up for success. Tip number 5 is going to depend on the type of player that you are. Either you want to A, get your biggest threat out as early as possible, or B, you want to get out an easy target as early as possible. So this kind of depends on your mental state as a player. So if you are going to be mentally exhausted, like especially if they have more than 1 person in, so you have to pick who you're going for, it's like a 3v1, and you know by the time you finally get these 2 people out, if you have this 1 player in a 1v1, you're going to lack confidence in yourself. Well, then you want to get that player out as soon as possible. That way, when you're finally whittled it down to a 1v1, you're feeling confident about whoever you're up against in that 1v1. And opposite of that is if you don't have confidence in yourself from the beginning, you're like looking at the other team, they have 3 players in, you're like, oh my god, how am I going to win this? Get an easy target out right away. For me, in my opinion, an easy target is somebody that doesn't have a ball, meaning they're not going to be able to go for a block, and if you're confident in your arm, hopefully they won't catch you. Get them out first, and that'll build up your confidence, like, okay, I can do this, I just got that player out. The last thing you want to do in that mental state is to go for the same person 3-4 times, you're not hitting them, and then you're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to win this? I can't get anybody out. I find that as soon as you get that one easy person out, you're like already feeling confident in yourself. But essentially you want to go for the person that's going to set you up in the best mental state. So it's really up to the type of player you are, who you want to go for. But once you know who you want to go for, get that person out. And again, like after 4 times, okay, I haven't gotten them. Yeah, switch up the target so they don't know who you're going to throw at, but really stick to who you're trying to get out to help build your confidence in the game. Tip number 6, throw and back up fast. If you're playing a good team, they're going to charge you on defense. So essentially, as soon as you throw, whoever you didn't throw at is going to charge you and try and get you as you backpedal, or try to get you to step out of bounds when you backpedal. So you want to set yourself up for success, and as soon as you throw, be ready to back up. And something that I find really helpful, especially when I'm playing teams that love to charge, I'll throw from the neutral zone line, so I'm already close to being on my way back to the back line where I'm best defensively, but I still am not too far away from the center line that my throw still has a lot of power on it, and I can still get somebody out from there. Number 7, and this is a big one, be mindful of that back line. So many times I see players who are last in get out from a line violation because they step over the back line. It's really hard to manage the back line when you're last in, because when you have all of your teammates in, after you throw and you're backing up, you can use them as a reference point of when you should stop backing up. But when you're in by yourself, sometimes you just lose track and you don't know how close you are, and you're in the moment, and so you just slide right on back. And so I see teams do a couple different things. Either the coach might stand right by the back line and you can use the coach as a reference point of when to stop. I have played on teams where there's a code word for what the back line means so that you know you're getting close. And another important thing to do is to do drills, backing up drills, to where you get used to how many steps it takes to get to the back line. And then in game, something I find that's helpful is to back up slightly at a diagonal angle versus backing up straight. You back up at a slight angle and it takes more steps to get back. So sometimes you tend to stop sooner than the back line because you've already taken so many steps. Last but not least, stay low most of the time. Even if you're a great jumper, it's so much easier to hit you when you're in the air. You're such a bigger target. It's hard to get behind the ball when you're in the air. You know, your feet are dangling. It's hard to move the ball up to protect your shoulders. You're just an easier target, and everyone's throwing at you. So one of them can throw low, one of them can throw high, and I bet you the high ball hits you. It's so much safer to stay low because you can get behind the ball really easy. You're a much smaller target. And there's a lot of teams that use the technique of putting a dead ball in front of them. So you're even likely to hit that dead ball before you even get to them. And when you're staying low, you can still slide laterally. It's not like you have to stay in one position. You're just making yourself that much smaller of a target and that much harder to hit. I hope you guys found these tips helpful. If you'd like some tips on more specific situational dodgeball, please drop the type of situation you'd love some tips on in the comments, and I'll definitely make sure to cover them. Please give this video a like and subscribe to my channel. It really helps get my content out there, and then I'll see you guys at the next one.